1992, a man came forward with a story. He didn't claim to have heard it. He didn't claim to have researched it. He claimed he had lived it. He said that for years his memories had been missing, blocked, buried, until something brought them back. What he described wasn't just a secret government program, it was something far stranger. Experiments involving children, machines designed to amplify the human mind, and a moment where thought itself may have crossed into reality. There is no official records confirming any of it. No documents, no photographs, no evidence you can hold in your hands. But the location he described is real. The technology, partially real, and the government programs he referenced are no longer classified. So, the question isn't just, is this true? It's how much of it could be. Tonight, we're going to Montauk. I'm your host, Justin Droke, and you're listening to Twisted Mysteries. Let's get into today's story. The edge of Long Island, right on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean, there stands a tower, a silent monument of concrete and steel. And if you stand beneath it long enough, you may start to feel like it's listening. Tonight, we're going to Montauk. The official story is simple. The radar station at Camp Hero State Park was a Cold War defense installation. Its purpose? Detect incoming Soviet bombers, protect New York, watch the sky, and by the late 1960s, it was decommissioned, closed, and abandoned. That's the official story. But locals tell you something else. They talk about trucks arriving long after the base was shut down, about sections sealed off, electrical hums that continued under the earth. They talk about children, and they talk about August 12th, 1983. In 1992, a man named Preston Nichols published The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, a book claiming to expose a series of secret experiments conducted at a decommissioned military base in Montauk, New York. According to Nichols, the facility wasn't abandoned at all. Instead, it became the site of classified research into psychological warfare, electromagnetic manipulation, and the limits of human consciousness. Echoing real-world programs like Project MKUltra. The claims go further. Children were allegedly brought into the program and used as test subjects. Their minds conditioned and amplified through modified radar technology. A device known as the chair was said to turn thought into reality, allowing subjects to visualize locations, influence matter, and, under extreme stress, manifest physical objects from fear itself. At the center of the story is an alleged breakthrough on August 12th, 1983, a moment where experiments reportedly escalated into something far more unstable. Nichols described a connection to the infamous Philadelphia experiment, suggesting that Montauk was not an isolated program, but a continuation of earlier attempts to manipulate space, time, and perception. There is no verified evidence supporting these claims, no documents, no confirmed records, no physical proof. Only testimony recovered memories, and a story that refuses to disappear. Maybe because so much of it feels possible. The story says runaway children were brought to the base at Montauk, isolated, conditioned, and traumatized. Their fear was not a side effect, it was fuel. Because fear amplifies psychic ability. Or at least that's what the program believed. They were placed in a chair, wired to equipment, told to focus, visualize, to project. And the machine, built from modified radar systems, would make whatever they imagined real, not metaphorically, but physically. If a child imagined a place, the program could see it. If a child imagined a person, they could locate them. And if a child imagined something in fear, it could manifest. I had mentioned that Nicholas claimed Montauk was linked to the infamous Philadelphia experiment. To understand the Montauk story, you have to go back 40 years earlier to 1943, to the middle of World War II. The story begins with a U.S. Navy ship, the USS Eldridge, a real vessel, a real escort destroyer, documented and verified, part of the war effort. But what's not verified is what allegedly happened to it. According to the legend known as the Philadelphia experiment, the Navy was attempting something extraordinary, not just radar invisibility, but total invisibility. The idea was based that, at least loosely, on theoretical physics concepts associated with Albert Einstein, specifically a unified field theory, a way to manipulate electromagnetic fields to bend light and render an object unseen. But the story claims it didn't stop there. During a test in the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, the USS Eldridge reportedly vanished, not just from radar, but completely vanished from sight. Witnesses claimed a greenish-blue haze surrounded the ship. Then it was gone. Moments later, it allegedly reappeared, but not all at once. Crew members were said to be disoriented. Some reportedly suffered extreme nausea. Others far worse. According to the most extreme versions of the story, some sailors were found physically embedded into the ship's structure, as if their bodies and the metal had occupied the same space. Others were said to have simply disappeared, never accounted for. There is no credible evidence that any of this actually happened. The U.S. Navy has repeatedly denied the experiment ever took place. And the official records show that the USS Eldridge was not even in Philadelphia at the time these events supposedly occurred. So where did the story come from? Much of it traces back to a man named Carl Meredith Allen. He's also known as Carlos Allende. In the 1950s, Allen sent a series of letters to a naval researcher describing the experiment in detail, including claims that he had witnessed it firsthand. His accounts were inconsistent, contradictory, and never substantiated. But they spread, and over time, the story evolved, and books were written, interviews conducted, details added, until the Philadelphia experiment became one of the most enduring naval conspiracy theories of the 20th century. And then, decades later, it resurfaced in Montauk, According to Preston Nichols, the events of 1943 were not a failure. They were the beginning. He claimed the experiment created a tear, a disruption in space and time, and that in 1983, at a base in Montauk, New York, that tear was reopened with consequences we still don't fully understand. This is where the story fractures. According to Nichols, on August 12, 1983, a time tunnel was stabilized, a wormhole, corridor, a bridge between 1943 and 1983. Two experiments connected, two timelines touching. But something went wrong. One of the psychically amplified subjects, a young man named Duncan Cameron, lost control. In a moment of panic, he visualized a monster. Not symbolically, not imaginatively. He saw it, felt it, feared it, and the machine made it real. The creature tore through equipment, destroyed the infrastructure, forced the program to completely shut down. The base was sealed. Memories were wiped and personnel scattered. Records erased. But you can't erase trauma. And you can't erase a signal once it's been broadcast. When the creators of Stranger Things first pitched their show, its original title was Montauk. If you listen closely, there's a nod to Montauk in the final episode of that Netflix original series, hinting at maybe a spin-off series to the show. A secret lab, psychic children, a breach in reality. Sound familiar? The difference is this: Stranger Things is fiction. Montauk insists it isn't. Let's pull back. The base was real. The radar was real. The Cold War secrecy was real. And the US government absolutely conducted documented mind control experiments under programs like MKUltra, run by the CIA. That's not a conspiracy. That's a declassified fact. MKUltra is one of the most disturbing and well-documented covert programs ever run by the US government. The CIA launched Project MKUltra in 1953 during the Cold War to research mind control, interrogation techniques, and behavioral modification, largely in response to fears that the Soviets or Chinese had developed brainwashing methods. In the 1970s, documents about the program were released administering LSD without subjects' consent, hypnosis experiments, sensory deprivation, electroshock, sexual blackmail operations, funding over 80 institutions, universities, prisons, hospitals, without public knowledge. Use of front organizations to hide CIA funding. Much of the documentation was destroyed in 1973 under CIA Director Richard Helms, which is why gaps exist. So MKUltra is absolutely real. The abuses are confirmed. There's speculation and conspiracy theories surrounding the involvement of Charles Manson within the program. Charles Manson led the group responsible for the 1969 Tate LaBianca murders in Los Angeles. Some research argue that Manson was released unusually early from prison in 1967. He and his followers used heavy doses of LSD. He demonstrated unusually effective psychological manipulation techniques on his followers, the Manson family. He had interactions with University of California researcher named Louis Jolyon West. Louis Jolyon West was a psychiatrist connected to MKUltra funded research and later evaluated Manson before his trial. This is where that theory begins. Here's what we know for a fact. MK Ultra did exist. The CIA conducted illegal mind control experiments. LSD was weaponized and tested on unwitting Americans. Louis Jolyon West had MK Ultra ties and evaluated Manson. There is no declassified evidence proving Manson was a part of MK Ultra. There's no physical evidence of time tunnels, manifested monsters, and psychic amplifiers or children used as dimensional keys. No documents, no verified witnesses, only recovered memories and stories. Here's why Montauk won't die. It lives in the space between what we know the government has done and what we fear it might have tried. It lives in that radar tower still standing at Camp Hero. It lives in the hum people swear they can feel underground. It lives in the idea that reality is thinner than we think, that maybe once a signal was sent so powerful that it never stopped echoing. So if you ever find yourself in Montauk, stand beneath the tower, close your eyes, and imagine something. Anything. Then ask yourself, if the right machine were still down there, would it answer? Would you go into the underground tunnels if they were open? If someone offered you proof, but you could never talk about it, would you want to see it? Well, everyone, that is the story of the Montauk Project. I find this completely fascinating. I love a good conspiracy story. I think what interests me so much on government conspiracy theories is the fact that so many conspiracy theories that I grew up hearing about have now been proven, for the most part, accurate. So it goes into the realm of, well, maybe there are things that we wholeheartedly discredited in society and have later found out that it was actually true. So if programs like MK Ultra really did exist, and for so long it was considered a conspiracy theory, why can't other things be also real that we forever thought were just conspiracy theories made up by a bunch of wackos? So something to think about. I really enjoy this episode. I love the connection with the Stranger Things. And if you haven't watched that series, it's an amazing series. And now that you know a little bit of the history of how the creators came up with that storyline, makes it even more interesting and engaging and exciting. Big thank you to everyone supporting the podcast. For episode photos and video links, check out my Instagram at twisted.mysteries. Please hit the like, follow, share button, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find me there at Twisted Mysteries 26. I would also like to mention that there may be sometimes I use pseudonyms to protect the people involved, and some of the events may have been embellished or dramatized for entertainment purposes. Case sources for today's episode include The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time by Preston B. Nichols with Peter Moon, The Montauk Paradox by Blaine Larson, National Security Archive, findagrave.com, wikipedia.org, allthescience.org, marineinsight.com, unrevealedfiles.com, iflscience.com, Netflix, Britannica.com, history.com, allthat'sinteresting.com, and, of course, CIA.gov. Until next time, stay twisted.